Now, I would like to talk about another game that is original to the Nintendo Entertainment System and hasn't been redone or reissued anywhere else. And that is Goonies 2. Now, the story of Goonies 2 is that back in the day, 87, everyone had this game, everyone loved it, it was super fun, but everyone was confused as to why it was Goonies 2 and not just the Goonies. Now, I was the one kid who was not confused because my local arcade had the Play Choice 10 with the original Goonies in it. So I played the Goonies, and it was okay. You know, it's very straightforward, very arcadey. It really does feel like something that should have been in the arcade. You know, there's limited levels, you have to find a key and a door. It always involves bombing things and blowing up rats and fratellis, okay? Now, after having played the original, Goonies 2 is so much better, okay? Because you can now see where certain elements of the game, like mouses and spiders appearing out of puffs of smoke and bombing things, those are all taken directly from the first game, and they've been expanded to a giant Metroidvania map in the second game. So you have point-and-click adventure segments, you have like kind of a light and dark world with a front and a back world, you have a map system, you have inventory, you have secret items. It's a great game because it keeps you invested, okay? The password system is great, so you can put effort into the game and keep the rewards that you find. Like you play all afternoon and you find, I don't know, one Goonie and some keys, maybe an extra container that makes you carry more bombs, okay? You can come back the next day after school and expand on it even further. And then maybe you beat the game. Maybe you finally find that diving equipment that enables you to go underwater, you know? And there's a lot of offensive and defensive items. For example, there's an item that just protects you from stalactites falling and hitting you on the head. And there's another item that specifically stops you from taking damage from geysers. Because geysers can be pretty dangerous, I mean, seriously. Okay, now, here's the weird thing. There was an opportunity for a boss in the Goonies movie. It was the giant octopus, right? Now, for years, I thought this was a myth, or something that was obviously cut for budgetary reasons and never made it into the final cut. But there is a final cut of Goonies that has a giant octopus in it, okay? This is one of those things where in order to, once they've added commercials into a movie, they now need to actually make it longer so that it fits into an hour or 2 hour block, what have you. So yeah, there was a television version of the Goonies released where the Goonies fought a giant octopus. And in all three of the Goonies games on Nintendo, they don't fight a giant octopus at all. But the thing, Tom Sawyer has a Nintendo game, okay? And in the Tom Sawyer NES game, he fights a giant octopus. Now, nowhere in Tom Sawyer lore is there a fight with a giant octopus, yet somehow he got to fight one in his Nintendo game. But none of the Goonies did, despite the fact that their movie actually does have a giant octopus in it. Urgh. Oh, hey, while I got you here, can you subscribe to the channel? It would really make a difference. Thanks a lot. How did we get here? How did we get a Goonies 2 without a Goonies? And the real question is, why was there no sequel? I mean, we got it in late 88. We weren't going to start getting the Super Nintendo until 92. So there's plenty of time to cash in on it. And, I mean, the game was so popular, and it was so late after the movie anyways, so why would it matter if there wasn't any more Goonies movies being made? Well, here's the situation. Goonies, produced by Spielberg, directed by Richard Donner, written by Christopher Columbus. Chris Columbus, I mean. The one who went on to do Home Alone and the first two Harry Potter movies. Okay, they were all there for this. Okay, so June 85, we get the Goonies. My life has changed forever. That's for sure. All-star cast, lots of fun. I would rent it and watch it in infinitum. Next February of 86, the game will be released on things like the MSX and Famicom in Japan. And very quickly after that, like barely a year, in March of 87, they came out with its sequel. Now, I was one of the kids who, played the original Goonies in the Nintendo Play Choice 10 at the local arcade. That's great. Love Goonies, love Nintendo. Go together like chocolate and peanut butter, am I right? By the time we got it, Japan already had the sequel. And the sequel it's just like the first one, only much better. Now, what you have to understand is that the first game, it has an arcadey element, okay? There's a sort of Metroidvania vibe to it, but not quite. You have to quest to find keys, to open a safe, to get a treasure. And you move on to the next level, which is slightly bigger. And you have to go to find keys, to open a safe, to get a treasure, and then you go to the next level. And each new level gets progressively larger in scope until by the end of it, you have Goonies 2. You have a large environment with a front and a back, and different zones, different tile sets, different enemies, and you have to find all the pieces and get back to that one safe and get the treasure out of it. And a lot of the things that appear in Goonies 2, they came from Goonies 1. Like the mice and the spiders that just amorphously appear out of smoke, and when you defeat them, they disappear into smoke. Like having the Fratellis as enemies that you can't kill, but only stun. They're always there. Going in at doors, having a front and a back. Going up and down vines, using the Cindy Lauper song. All that stuff was in the first one, okay? So, in terms of content, everything that was in the first game is in the second game. It's just so much more refined and better. So, it's really hard to tell anyone to go back and play the first Goonies game, because everything that was in that game is in Goonies 2, only so much better. Plus, you got a mermaid. They're right there. Yeah, I don't know what took the translation so long, but it wasn't until almost 2 years later. So this would bring us to December of 88. Where we Americans got, finally, Goonies 2. And of course, it's amazing. And yeah, you had to sit down with, your crayons and your notebooks and make maps and take notes, write down things, particularly your password. Although the password entered music is phenomenal. Go look at that. Don't jump to using save states. Go back to the screen where you put in the password and listen to that music. We all love the Goonies, that's great. But why was there never a third one? Well, there kind of was. There was something called a YY World, which is essentially it's a mad world, but with Konami characters. And this is a game that starred KonamiMan, that guy who just appears out of nowhere in rooms, specifically in Goonies 2. And so he has his own game. And again, YY World is a game that is very much like Goonies 2. Only there are 6 zones that you can enter one and come back. So it's not one huge sprawling world, the huge map and a back and a front. So you have more digestible nuggets. Each of the 6 zones are based on different Konami games. You got one for Goemon from Legend of the Mystical Ninja. You got one from King Kong 2, which was a Famicom game. And yes, it's the same King Kong 2 Famicom game that James and Mike played on Let's Play Mondays. So that was a video that changed my life. So that specific King Kong, along with Goemon and Simon Belmont from Castlevania, KonamiMan, Mikey from Goonies 2 also appears. The Maui head from Gradius is there as well. So yeah, you collect the 6 characters, one from each zone, and an extra ability from each of the characters. And there's a zone for Goonies. There's like a pirate cave. So it's like, is it as refined and perfect as the one in Goonies 2? No, but there is like an extra Goonie stage out there existing in this other game called YY World. And you get to play as Mikey again with the yo-yo and all that. So can I recommend it? I recommend looking into it because it's really weird. It's rough around the edges. And they did my man Mikey dirty. You see? When they, each one has a special ability, of course, to unlock new areas. A la Metroidvania. Mikey's ability is that he's short. He can squeeze into passages that other people can't. That's his special trait. And what a letdown. He's a kid, what are you going to do? It's really fun. And it's nice to know that there's a little bit more extra Goonies on Nintendo Action out there. If you really, really search for it. What is it to you? Just go get YY World and play the 1/6 of it. That's essentially Goonies 3. Why not? It'd be fun to actually see KonamiMan do something, too. Besides just, refill your health. Which is very much appreciated. Thank you, KonamiMan. So, in conclusion, you can look up a complete walkthrough, a complete guide, a complete map at any time. But that's not going to give you the experience. Print out a walkthrough, have it near you. But that's not going to take away from the enjoyment you're going to get from playing Goonies 2. And at the end, there's a mermaid. Because why not? Okay? Alright, well, thank you everyone. And again, a little play goes a long way.